This is Doug Stout. I'm here with Charles Collins. It's April 2nd, 2014. Charles, where were you born?
Westerville, Ohio,
Okay. And when did you come to Licking County?
in October of 1925.
What was your birth date? I'm sorry.
My birthday is February 2 of 22.
Okay. What brought your family to Granville?
My father hired in as a farmhand to a farmer with 375-acre farm.
Wow.
The farmer he had worked for in New Albany at that time quit, and so somehow him and Mr. Price got together, and we moved out there. And I don't just remember the circumstances.
Right. Yeah. And then you went to school in Granville?
Union Station.
Union Station. Okay.
Union Station, 12 years.
Okay. And you were telling me a story about how you met your wife. You want to tell that?
I took my brother and his girlfriend to a movie, and she was a girlfriend of his girlfriend. And so I took her to the movie and didn't realize that she was a youngster. But when my sister told me that she was 6 years younger than me, why, I forgot about her altogether. Well, when I went into the Navy, why, I didn't get any answers from the girls that I had dated during that time. She wrote me, and we started corresponding there in that time. And when we come home from boot camp, why, we saw each other. And when I come home from basic engineering, why, I saw her then. And we shipped over to the Philippines for a year. When we come back in July of 46, we decided we were going to get married.
Okay. So when World War II broke out, you went into the service in what year?
44.
Did you enlist or were you drafted?
I was drafted. I was farm deferred all the time during the war, and there in December of 44, they was having trouble finding Licking County boys to go to farm. They took 6 of us farm boys there in December of 44. The 22nd, I think it was December of 44, into service. And there was 2 of us was put in the Navy, and the other 4 was in the Army.
Would the Navy have been one of your choices if you could have chose where you got to go?
If I'd have chosen, I'd have been Navy, because I had a brother that had been in the Navy for 4 years.
Okay.
He was in the Navy all that time.
So it didn't upset you any that you got it put in the Navy?
No, I was really satisfied with being in the Navy.
Well, that's good.
And they trained me for basic engineering up at the lakes. And when they got through the basic engineering, they sent me to diesel school in Biloxi, Mississippi. And 6 weeks of diesel school that they taught me all the things about a diesel engine, 6-cylinder. And when they put me on the ship, sent me to the Philippines, put me on that patrol craft, and there was 4 of them diesel engines that I was to take care of, change the oil and keep them running, such as that.
Had you worked on engines and that before?
I had done all kinds of stuff with gasoline engines.
Okay.
I knew gasoline engines like crazy. And so that was one reason I suppose that they put me into engineering.
Right.
Because I had several tricks played on me. I was in high school with automobiles. They would change, one of the buddies in school would take the spark plug wires out of the distributor and move them back one so that the motor would just run perfect, but there was no power.
Right.
Well, when I started up the hill just south of the schoolhouse, north of the schoolhouse, it wouldn't just die down. It wouldn't work. So something wrong with the spark system. I took the head cap off the distributor and nothing wrong. And somehow there was one of the plug wires come loose. So I pulled them all up, put the cap back on, and run the wire from the plug up to where the number one's supposed to be. Started up and just got up the hill. that made me hit with that. That was one of the girlfriends that I was dating. They, in that period there.
Right.
And impressed her that I was able to make that car take off and run uphill like that.
I'll bet.
But we had overhauled several Model T Fords. Had an uncle that was a real good guy at tearing them apart. He was also responsible for me taking my first pull on a cigarette. That coughing spell, a 15-minute coughing spell, made it that it was the last time I ever coughed from cigarette smoke.
Never did that again.
Never did it.
So you're over in the Philippines, was where you're at, and did your boat have a name or did it just have a number or?
It was a patrol craft. He's on here someplace.
Okay.
1241.
Okay.
USSPC 1241. Yeah, 12.
Yep, that's what's at 1241.
Mm-hmm. And that was a outfit sub chaser, actually. They had big tanks of explosives, 30-gallon drums of explosives on the sides of the ship that you propelled them, shot them off the sides of the ship, and then there was 2 rollers on the back where you could let them roll right off the back of the ship. If we was traveling 35 knots, we was going over top of the sub. I wasn't on it when they did into that.
Right. So it was a sub chaser, but you didn't have to be out on it when it was chasing the subs?
The first thing we did, the first week that I was on it, we went out into the Pacific quite a ways and shot all of this ammunition over, set them so they would drop down a little ways and explode. We unloaded all that, just dumped it.
Right.
That was the first job that we did.
You were telling me the story, and I can't remember it all, the other week when you were in about, and I don't remember if it was the Philippines or where, about where you went and the harbor was all full of boats and the villagers hadn't seen stuff. And
it's one harbor we went in, there were docks all the way around, the houses all around there, but the boats up in the docks, these are personal boats, that like on Buckeye Lake all the time. Mm-hmm. But the mine sweeps come into that, and they cut the mines loose, and we destroyed them. And the next morning, why, there was boats everywhere over that. And when we went in, well, there was no boats on it at all, because the Japanese had mined it so that they couldn't use their boats. They was afraid to take the boats out, afraid to hit the mine. And when we got rid of them mines, why, then the next morning before we left there, why, there was boats all over that little. That was, I suppose maybe that was, it was a little wider than Buckeye Lake, but not quite as long an area. It was pretty good size.
Okay.
But there was houses all.
How were you treated by the people in the Philippines?
We didn't. The ones that we met were just real anxious to see us because we was getting rid of them mine.
Right.
But we didn't have. I wasn't on soil only a few hours of that year. That's another story.
Okay.
My brother was stationed in the Philippines at that time, and I got to visit him while he was ready for discharge. But he had a job of coordinating the people that was coming into this dock where they could get an airplane back to the States.
Okay.
And that was his. He was. They had a barracks there where they stayed, and he kept track of all those and get them back to the States.
So you got to spend some time fishing with him?
Nope, we didn't.
Oh.
he just was practically tied up there all the time.
How long had it been since you'd seen him, though?
I hadn't seen him for 4 years. He was in the Navy.
Wow.
He'd been in several different places in that 4 years when I remember seeing him.
How did you find out? How did you know he was there? Did you just were let through letters? Or?
Mom sent me a letter, and when I got it, why, she told me what the address was, and the captain said, "We'll see about this." He said, "We might be in that area sometime." Well, I expect a week or maybe a month or something like that. And he says he should be in this area when we went in, but we docked in that area. That area had already been cleared. You know, where we went that time.
Right.
And so that's how the captain of the ship kept track of his address and thought that that's where his address would be. And sure enough it was.
Well, that's neat. So, were you just in the Philippines, or did they?
That's the only place I was.
So he just kept you there cleaning out?
Yeah. All we did was we was all over, I don't know, well, it was all around.
All around there, yeah.
We cleaned up the, as far as I know, I don't know whether there's any other ship that worked with other mine sweeps or not. But anyway, we did a lot of travel.
I'll bet.
One river, we went up, and we went in, just a couple miles or so. We had 9-foot draft, and so we only go up there just a little ways. The mine sweeps come running up it, and they cut a mine loose. Radio, just there was, every time they cut one loose, why, they would radio us that it was on its way down. And the last one that we exploded, it took an hour from the time it to come down the river. They was up the river far enough.
Right.
That it took an hour for it to get down to us.
Sit there and watch for it.
Mm-hmm. And that was the last one we got down on that river with to an hour to get down to. There was 4 or 5 of them that was, of course, right. Just we could still see them
Sure.
up the river always.
But they were so far ahead of you that.
Mm-hmm.
Now you got out of the service in
46.
46.
Mm-hmm.
So even after the war ended, you were in there for a little while.
Yeah. You know, we was in there practically a year after the war.
Right.
Because they dropped the bomb on Japan while I was on the way over there.
Yeah.
And I was expecting to turn that ship around and bring us back home.
You were hoping to get home. So when they brought you home, from the Philippines, where did you go?
We come down through the Panama Canal and up the east coast of Virginia.
Okay.
And then sent back up to the lakes to be discharged.
So once you were discharged, did you come back to Granville?
Yeah. I come back on the 5th of, on the 6th of July it was when I come back. And the next day, I was ready to go to work again on the farm where I had left 19 months before. And another story, way back in the 40s, when I graduated from high school, I went through high school. I missed every 4th day working on the farm in order so that I could have money to get through school. And I was real proud of my geometry grade in the senior year. I had a straight A all the way through geometry. Well, when I graduated on Monday the 13th of May, and Mr. Price had asked me if I was going to keep working for him. And I said, "Well, sure, I worked for you 4 years through school. Why shouldn't I go ahead now?" I worked $1.50 a day, and so he was paying Dad $9 a week, so was paying me $9 a week. On Monday was graduation. On Tuesday, I goes up to work, and when I come up to his house, he lived a quarter mile up the road in his house, and he's going down the lane back to the barn. And he says, "We have a surprise for you this morning." We go back in where we kept wagons and such as that for the horses, of course. And he swung the doors open. Here's a brand new Ford tractor sitting there with a plow, disc, and other equipment for the Ford tractor. He says, "This is what you're going to be working on the farm." He says, "Your dad will be doing other small work, and he won't be doing any plowing and discing anymore." And so I took over
Wow. Where was that farm?
up on Deeds Road,
Okay.
Granville.
Okay. And I think you told me you live in the same house that you grew up in?
Yes.
So you've been there for how many years now?
Since 1925.
Yeah.
I lived in the house from 1925 until 1946, except for the time that I was in there.
Right.
When I got married, Mr. Price gave me a small lot to set a house trailer on in Dad's backyard. And he put a house trailer back there, and we lived in that house trailer for 11 years. When we had two children, we decided we wanted a bigger house, so we was wondering if we couldn't build a house. So Mr. Price gave me an acre of land.
Right.
So I started the house, and his wife died. Mr. Price's wife died just about the time we was getting had the cement blocks for the basement. And he said he didn't know just what was going to be happening on this. So he didn't want to put out any more money on the house. So in order to get a loan, I couldn't get enough loan to build the house. We just put a roof on the basement, just put a floor on the basement, covered with cardboard and then asphalt roofing.
Right.
We lived in that until 57 before we put a house on it.
So when you came back, you worked for him, and then is that what you've done your whole career? Been a farmer?
I worked from 59. I worked till 59 for him, and that's when him and Dad retired. And I had to supplement my income a little bit. But I had done grease and washing trucks for a boy down the road, and he had a semi-tractor, single-axle trailer that he just used for special jobs. He didn't. He had a tandem tractor, or tandem trailer on a big international truck that he drove himself. And I asked him, I said, who drive this truck here when you don't, when you're driving one? And he said, well, he says, I get some of the boys around here. I said, how about let me start driving the truck for you? He says, well, sure. So I took that truck, I don't know, it was in August there sometime in 59. I was on vacation at that time. And I went down to New Lex, got a load of coal to unload at Granville Inn, or Granville Opera House. The oil stoker, it was the bin that you shoveled in was the height of the back of the truck. So when you raised up the bed, you just shoved it over out of the box into that bed. I left there at 7 o'clock and got that load of coal, unloaded it there by 1 o'clock I was back in the garage. He thought there was something wrong because there was no way that I could got down there and got that load and get back there that quick. I said, why not? I said, I put every bit in that bin. I got $12 for that load of coal. That's more than I had worked in any day in my life.
Right.
So, in a couple of days, he says, you want to still work for me? I says, Mr. Price is going to quit. He says, at the end of the year, he's not going to be, I won't be having the job. He said, well, says, between now and then, we'll just work you now and then. So, from then until about the end of the year when Mr. Price decided to sell the farm and such that, I started working him full time, and he got a job with hauling coal into Denison University until he gave me that job for a year or so. Then he got a job of hauling coal into Grant Hospital. That Grant Hospital hauled coal year-round because they used more coal in the summertime than they did in the wintertime.
Really?
The air conditioner.
Oh, okay.
And so I held, so we was hauling coal from Coshocton into Columbus. So I worked for him for 22 years. And he was killed out on 37, just south of these roads there. He had his Parkinson's disease, I think.
Uh-huh.
Whatever. Anyway, we think he went to sleep while he was driving,
Oh.
and he got run into a head-on into a truck, killed himself.
Ooh.
Anyway, so that put me out of a job. I forget how, until the rest of the year anyway, his wife run the business until the end of the year of 81.
Okay.
And so in 82, January of 82, I was unemployed. And 82 was not a very good year to find a truck driving job. We had, in my 22 years, I started hauling, every time I hauled a little coal into Columbus, we haul limestone from Delaware or from Columbus back into Licking County Highway Department. I knew all the guys down at the Licking County Highway Department. I went down to one of the truck outfits down there on East Main Street and applied for a job down there. And I just thought I'd just stop in and talk with some of the fellows in the county. And this guy had been the operator of the outfit there. He says, "Charlie, would you want a job here?" I said, "Yeah, I could work here." He says, "We'll fill out an application here." He says, "We're going to be hiring a couple of men here very shortly." Well, last week in March, he says, he called me and said, "You can come to work." And I think March is 29th. So I was out of work January, February, and March.
Right.
And then I worked there until I retired in December of 89.
Okay.
Made my 50 years
Yeah.
of employment. I was unemployed 3 months.
What did you do down at the county? Just a little bit of everything, or?
I was truck driver.
Okay.
Did a little bit of everything. I shoveled gravel to cover up the asphalt when you put down asphalt.
Right.
And you stone over to that kind of stuff. And just haul dirt out of the ditches and such as that.
All sorts of stuff.
Yeah. And Jerry Ray was the engineer at that time, and he was very employee oriented. He had all kinds of items going for people that worked without being sick, and or people that was actually on the job all the time, and so for attendance and such as that, I got 2 of these jackets. And one of the other supervisors, we was working on, for the 4 of us, was working for another supervisor besides ours on the different sections. I was on the southeast section of county where we were. We were working on the northeast section, storing gravel, and I was swinging the gravel better than any of the other guys. I worked on the farm, and the shovel coal and such that. I could handle that big scoop shovel like crazy. Well, when I get this little shovel, well, I could just so. This other supervisor told my supervisor, says, he says, "Charlie is one of the best slingers and rock that you ever saw." He said, he's scattering rock on there. Well, they had it. He started after he went on to, I don't know, retired or something. Anyway, they had this Jack Sherman Award for employees, best employees and such as that. And so my supervisor, nominated me as being one of them. And so there was 50 of us, or 54 of us, and had an election, and I was elected on that. So I got a little Bronze Eagle
That's neat.
reward out of that.
That's neat.
So
Well, I appreciate you coming in. Is there anything else you want to tell us about that you can think of that you want to make sure we get down on recording?
yes, I should. With this all this deal where I went through with my wife, married on August 12th. My courtship was from January of 45 till July of 46. That's all the courtship. Now we only had a couple of dates with her in that time.
Right.
And we got married 67 years ago. In August it'll be 68.
That's great. Not many people can say that.
It seemed to me that there was a greater power, knew just exactly how he had me planned to go.
Yeah. Sounds like it.
There are several of these evangelists keep saying that you can do whatever you want to do, but the Lord has designed for He knows what you're going to do.
Right.
It seems to me like He started back when I was about 18 years old, and just guided me real good because I've just been happy all my life.
I was going to say, it sounds like you've had a good life.
Never on my dad raised 6 of us kids on $9 a week. We never went to bed hungry.
Right.
Because we had 2 or 2.5 acres of garden, potato patch, sweet corn patch, and such as that. And there was always 25 to as many as 75 pigs being fattened for the market. And always we had 75 brood cows. And there was always a brood cow every year that would be too old to put on the market. We'd bring her in off a pasture in September, put her on all the feed she could eat for until Thanksgiving, had to butcher the beef.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
There were six of you kids.
mm-hmm.
Where did you fall in that six?
I was the oldest.
You were the oldest. Okay.
Yeah, that's when I was able to go through school that way, and I give mom and dad $2 a week out of my 9. I give them $2 a week to help on their expenses to keep the other kids in school.
Sure. Well, that's nice. Did the other kids work on the farm some too as they grew up, or did they?
Some, but no. There's Edgar that was in the Navy. When he got out of the Navy, he took over my job. I don't know who he was working, who they got to do the extra work while I was gone, but he got out there, and for that year that I was in over there, he worked on the farm.
Okay.
And before he moved on up the road to another farm up the road. Of course, I'm proud that I was in the Navy now.
You should be. I mean, you should be. What do you want people to remember about your generation and your service in World War II?
There was a whole, all of us. What I don't understand though is why there's some of us that don't want to talk about it at all. That's something I don't understand.
Right.
the and it's just kind of interesting that one of the boys has just passed away here lately. I was in the Zone Bugle Corps, American Legion Zone Bugle Corps for 27 years.
Okay.
And he was in the drum corps when he was one of the beat the drum right beside me. He passed away, and he didn't say much at all about what he did.
Right.
And couldn't find out much. Now the other thing that I was in the Navy, one of the other things was that I learned a lot about was integration. I learned that the black people, there were some black people that was just like us. One guy that was a chess player on the ship.
Mm-hmm.
We spent a lot of time together playing chess. And he was a Kentucky boy that was vegetarian. And they were vegetarian in the Navy. He had to be careful with what he ate.
I bet.
But he was a very friendly kind of guy. The two others on the ship were gamblers. They had dice and card games that go on all the time. I wouldn't trust those two, but they took care of their job, I guess.
Right.
Yeah.
Were you able? I mean, after your service, did you stay in touch with anybody you served with? I mean, did you ever have any reunions or?
There's most of them, like on the ship, there was only two others from Ohio. All the rest of them was from New York.
Oh, okay.
And but now Kelly Starr, he lives out on West Main Street, on 31st Street there at West Main. I kept in touch with him. He went into the Navy the same time I did.
Okay.
Or he went into he was drafted the same day I was.
Okay.
And I kept in touch with him. And but he's still lives over there. And he's the only one that I've been in touch with recently.
Right. I'm sure it's hard to keep track of everybody. When you came home, everybody went to work and started their families, and
That's like the reason I got down here was, I come in here to get some papers for so to transfer old house. I'm selling the old house,
okay.
and I come in here to get papers for the old house and to sign for them, and somehow I wanted to find out if there was a lot of, like, there's a Charles Cole that I was in the Navy with.
Mm-hmm.
He was discharged the same day I was. And he lived up on 161. So when we come home, we let him on 161. And then they took me on into Granville. And I hitchhiked it back home. But I saw him once or twice up there, and then I went to school for farmer school for a year. After that, under the BA
Okay.
program, and so we saw him and two other boys up there on 161 that was in school with me in Curtisville. And next time I went up was several years later, and that farm had been vacated. It started a couple houses built there instead of a farmhouse.
Mm-hmm.
I come on down the road, and these other two farms were the same way. They had quit farming. So those three guys, I don't know where they ever went.
Huh.
So I'm trying to find out.
Still trying to find him.
Cole find out where he went, and they couldn't find any record of him in their books here.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking about maybe today I would look for some records like that from him, but I didn't get around early enough to do it before.
Well, we won't keep you. We appreciate you taking time to do this, Charles. This is important to get what you did down. So